shoes off. Good enough for Ray, good enough for me. I am tall enough without the shoes. But don't worry, I know where my husband is. Okay, so I am speaking today about something that's very important to me, just a little bit more of a background about where I'm coming from. So I am the eldest of 4 children. I am mother, so I know the challenges on both sides of the fences. But I'm also I've started off my adult career working with children with significant challenging behaviours. I was a personal assistant for a young person with autism before I even knew what autism was. But I knew that his teeth worked. So then after that I continued studying and am now a qualified teacher, but then missed my special ed kids. So then I qualified up as a special ed teacher. Then I got sick and tired of sitting at a table where a psychologist would come in with no idea about how a school runs, telling us how to do our own thing. So more study. So then as a school psychologist, I started to work in a way that was ethical and evidence-based. And I got sick and tired of trying to push the proverbial uphill. So then I left that environment and started working at the Department of Education in complex matters. So all over the state of Victoria, there are principals doing an incredible job at doing things that the help I could support them with was basically a cup of tea and a few moments of peace. But after that, I did that for 12 months, and once again, the frustration that comes from trying to make a difference and then having somebody who may not have been in a school, who may not have worked in youth mental health, telling us that this wasn't going to work. So did that for 12 months, went into private practice, great idea, COVID, yay! 2021 opened up my own practice, and I have been working 7 days a week, 24 hours a day ever since. Don't recommend it. Stay with the team. Okay, so let's just fly through this. I would rather tell jokes. I am quite funny as well as beautiful, but we're going to get through this. But the way that I have managed to get through a lot of this really tough stuff is with my humour.
Sorry.
Can someone please remove him? I'm telling mum on you. All right, so we want to be able to, it's my brother. You said don't say that, it's my brother, I'm going to do that. We want to be able to recognise the signs and drivers of vocational vulnerability, burnout and vicarious trauma. The 2 previous speakers, the 2 topics there have covered this amply, so I'm not going to go through all of this, but I'm hoping that you'll leave with something. No, there's no cash and prizes. You have to wait till the last session of tomorrow in order to actually get a prize for all your points. So we want to be able to apply 3 practical, evidence-based strategies at individual, team and organisational levels to reduce harm, strengthen retention, and then hopefully leave today with one thing that you're going to make different in your work. Here are some quotes. Vulnerability is not a deficit. It is the source of connection, advocacy and sustainable change. Vulnerability is strength. Embracing vulnerability is as a practitioner, remaining open, empathetic, and in my case, child-centred or youth-centred, enables authentic connections with young people who have a highly tuned BS or meter. If you're not authentic, neither will they be. And they fuel the courage needed to challenge systematic barriers. Advocacy is essential. The role of advocate is inseparable from the role of practitioner. Who said this? Me, in my submission, and that's why I'm talking today. But the workforce strain and burnout, we know what this is about. The population is saying we need something different. We cannot get in to see anybody that we want to be looking after our mental health. Our wait lists are all long. We've got cuts everywhere, and particularly after COVID in Victoria, we are done. I'm talking about teachers and psychs and anyone who is has the ability to be able to help people. We are tired. We have given our bodies literally to this profession. When I go into a school, I will start from the position of this teacher who I'm working with, about a young person. I'm starting from the position of They get up every day and this profession has chosen them. And I say to them, I am not going to give you another thing to do. Because you have so much already on your plate and nothing's being let go. You came into this position because you wanted to help the children, and now you've got administration saying, yeah, but document it and document it. Yes, that's very important. But also, how many PD sessions do these teachers need? So they're sitting through them, they're falling asleep, they're realising that they're actually not in touch with their bodies, which reminds me, everyone close your eyes and take a breath. You don't have to close your eyes. Take a breath. Feel your feet in your shoes. You are enough, said Ken off the Barbie show. The fact is that each of you have chosen to come today and to this conference and get up and go to your work every time, and you are actually trying to make a difference in the person's life in front of you, and you yourself may also be going through something. As Deb said in the opening session yesterday, we are in a very unique position where our lives might have gone to shit, but we're sitting opposite someone that can also be triggering us. We have to compartmentalise. We should not be working in a crisis by crisis situation, and yet, due to the systematic issues, we are. So, the Australian Medical Association said something that was helpful. What are we looking for? We're looking for emotional exhaustion, cynicism, and reduced efficacy. We're looking at increased sick leave, staff turnover, reduced capacity for reflective practice, rushing from one session to the other, saying, yes, I can do that, but then not being able to double back to actually do it because you've got back-to-back clients. Now, as a late diagnosed ADHD person, yes, I'm one of many, I did not know that it was unusual for starters to have bees in your head, be kind, but also to realise you spend your day feeling inadequate. You feel like you've let someone down at every moment of every day because you could do better, you could be making this more effective, yet it is an enormous task. So, the school psychologist, juggling a large caseload, has limited supervision and repeated crisis referrals, and you start to begin to avoid the complex cases. Now, as someone who has been in a school system, who's been in the Department of Education in our own private practice, we are working almost against each other. Why? We need to be supporting, we need to be able to have these referrals where we can trust each other as well. But psychology is actually so guarded in terms of its idea that we have to be something extraordinary. When you are not able to be extraordinary, it feels like a failure. And so being able to, in supervision, turn around and say, you know what, I know I should have done this, but I did this. Hopefully you're not my manager, but I need to be able to speak plainly without the fear of going against a code of conduct, of which there is another set of circumstances out now, which I'm sure I'm probably doing something wrong right now. Probably says I'd have to wear shoes every time I present. So, what are the top stresses in allied health workers? Workload and staff shortages, yes. Inadequate organisational support supervision, and is it moral or is it morale injury? Anyone? Moral? Morale? Yeah. We get where we're going, someone's hurt. And administrative burden, role creep, and complexity of need. Because we have been called to this work, we are always seeing a need that we feel like we can actually do something about. And so we start to do a little bit more, and a little bit more. It's not an accident that I'm wearing green today. For those of you who know, happy St. Patrick's Day. And also, I left this organisation to come up this weekend too late to actually go shopping. But fortunately, the package of clothing I bought online on Tuesday that I did pay for express delivery arrived at my house in Melbourne this morning. So this is what I had in the cupboard. But happy St. Patrick's Day. So you will find yourself trying to do more because you know how to, but you do not have the resources. These staffing gaps force task shifting and service rationing. Burnout and moral injury are not individual failings, but systematic or system signals. Each of us is so used to absorbing fault. We believe that if we can do better, it's on us. Now, we can understand that the system sometimes works against us, but we are constantly taking on the responsibility that is not ours and does not work for us. We need to be able to put boundaries around, this is a marathon, not a sprint. When I did a wellbeing session as part of the Disaster Response Network last Wednesday, and it was a real good reminder to myself how much we need to be able to tell our frontline workers, just showing up and the things that you're doing right there is going to make a huge amount of difference. So reminding us that being consistent, being authentic, being grounded, quite often that is the first major step that a lot of people that need our connection are looking for. That said, who's in charge of the EFTs and the budget and the rosters? We are not good at explaining how vital we are because we don't have business training necessarily in our training courses. So therefore we don't know how to communicate with those that love spreadsheets. Marry one. It's very helpful. Except when you spend money. Actually, it's my money. What am I saying? Evidence-based strategies to prevent and respond. Organisational, peer and individual. We can, at an organisational level, create psychological safety and meaningful supervision. The system designs stepped care, lived experience roles and trainee pipelines. So last night at the welcome drinks, I was wearing a lovely colourful dress, you might have seen, trying desperately not to fall into the pool. But I was talking to some colleagues and peers who have talked about the number of lived experience roles that are being cut away across Victoria, but probably everywhere else. So if, as the previous speakers just spoke to, if we are asking, if we know that the most effective first gate is with others that people can relate to and it be... Maybe I should have had the other microphone, but I said no because I'm probably going to break out into karaoke. What's that? I use that as a strategy in the playroom, by the way, when we're talking about boundaries. Sometimes you put a boundary in place, maybe I start singing opera, and if you don't like it, you can say, stop, I don't like it, and so then I demonstrate. Effective. Except for one kid that actually did want me to sing opera. I ran out of words, amazingly. So, the fact is that we need to be able to have these supports and develop them without thinking that we are having to sacrifice more and more of ourselves. So if these lived experience advocates can be within reach, that can be sometimes enough. We don't have to have all of the work on our shoulders. We need these trainee pipelines. Okay, peers. Have these discussions and reflective practice reducing isolation. As I said, not because I intended it to be this way, but I'm currently in the practice by myself. If anyone's looking to work a couple of days a week, Northcote, Melbourne, let me know, psychology, mental health nurse. I've got a big wait list. So, if we can reduce the isolation, but how many of you do work in a team? And if you're not talking about work, then suddenly you're wasting time. That isolation that people experience is it builds your self-doubt. If you have a team that you can refer it to, you need to be able to have that time and think of it as in a sacrosanct way. You need to be able to be supporting each other. The ladies that just spoke earlier from who have this beautiful team in Sejuna, around there. They have a list of lovely things that they have got, and they spoke to the difficulty of retention. Staffing is your most valuable asset. It is the most cost that you will have in a business. If you change over staff, there is a loss of all the things that we own, intellectual property, retraining, etc. You want to look after your staff, but at what point are they understanding their trajectory? I have had provisional psychologists before. Then in private practice, after a while, it felt like I was actually working for them. They had more holidays than me. If you talk to other private practice owners, they're saying the provisionals come in and have holidays while we are not. But that is not the provisionals' fault. That's what they need to be able to do. The fault is the fact that it's very hard to run a small business if with cost of living, etc. Now, if you're doing any driving, maybe make sure you've got a good Wi-Fi connection. All right, individually, we need to practice self-management, brief grounding, micro breaks, boundary setting. You need to know what works for you and then have it be a non-negotiable. One of my self-care techniques is to go and play with a niece and nephew that could give two hoots about what I do professionally or how many letters I have after my name. They just know that they can make poopy jokes and we have a laugh and then I feel better. They are not trying to help, support, teach. They just get to talk about it. And that's what I do as part of my self-care. And then try and give them sugar when their parents are looking. Oh. You need to have a personal recovery plan. If any of you know of the Body Keeps the Score, yes. Our bodies are literally holding on to the trauma that we are getting on a daily basis. And we hold that. We hold people's really heavy stuff. We need to be able to go, this was too much today, I need to step back. You need to be able to think of yourself as your mental health and your physical health are your barometers to, can I keep doing this work? Or I'm going to fall into a big heap. And sure enough, I've been coughing as a teacher, probably yelling at year 8s not doing their homework, blew a nodule in my vocal cord. Our bodies are this is what I'm looking at special ed, but our bodies, literally, physiologically, as I would say to the principals in complex matters, if you don't take a break, your body will do that for you. And as we've been speaking about earlier, the ladies earlier were saying, we are depleted. We need to make sure that we are going to be able to do this work longer term. So, think of one stressor in your workplace. Now, or not. Sit here, stare at my beautiful face. Thank you. And just take a moment to enjoy the fact that you're amongst colleagues. This may be the one activity that you're doing, saying, I'm feeling as though there's too much information out there and I'm overwhelmed. Maybe what you take away from this experience is 3 days worth of people like you that are all tired, trying their best, and so maybe feeling less isolated and alone is what you take away from this. Let the information wash over you. Do not say, I will come back to it and read it later. No. There is so much information coming at us, there's always going to be more research. Every one of those posters out there had something I just wanted to devour. I know at the moment I cannot take it on. So JOMO, joy of missing out, saying no, putting things down, that needs to be one of the things that you can do as a way of managing your stress. Okay? I'll talk through the activity, by the way. But we know what these definitions are. Vicarious trauma, secondary stress, compassion fatigue. I know for myself, when I have no more compassion for the people I love in my life, I am giving it all away at work, and that's not acceptable. I have 2 beautiful daughters. Well, one more so than the other. They look like twins, but they're not. But they have been with me along this journey. They know about confidentiality. They know about making sure. They knew about autism. They know what I do. I'm sure that makes them a little bit more vulnerable for the other aspects of their lives. But at different times, those precious darlings that I have said things to me that have taken my breath away. I can always get other clients. They can always get another psychologist, teacher, karaoke singer. But my daughters will not have another mum. no matter how much my husband jokes about it. But they are my first priority. And if I cannot turn up for them, what the hell am I doing? So, we have, smallest QR code ever. Thank you, but that was that. We will have that available to you. So on our website, morganawalker.com, yes, blatant promotion, self-promotion, we will be making new, more resources available. We were discussing before about intellectual property, and these slides will be available, and there's a bit of word, there's a few words on there. And to the general population, yes, give me my money. But to my colleagues and peers, we help each other. Take what you need from each other, what I have available, but know that you can actually be helping others, and that's how we help each other. We do not need to be so precious with a form, a plan that I've created by not making it available to those that I know will use it. But only leave this conference with things that you will use straight away. Everything else leave alone, except for the food, fill up your pockets. Okay, why it matters. So micro advocacy, collecting data. The data on one of the earlier presentations before was fantastic. And public voice, partner with a peak body or lived experience group to amplify systematic issues. Okay, step plan. For yourself, if you have a stressor that is workload, creeping roles, if you don't do it, nobody will do it. That's what I was going to say before, St. Patrick's Day. I used to work in a Catholic school, never again. Those places are run on guilt. And so I did take that up to the Catholic Education Office, and hopefully they took my words on, or retired. Anyway, can't help but talk. So I will tell you one story at this point. Because I've always had this yap on me, when I was at a school and I went for another job as a special ed teacher at that point, and I said, the strengths and weaknesses comes up. Weakness, I suppose, you'll never wonder what I'm thinking. I always speak my mind. So I better get that out there in the first instance. And who would then become one of my best mentors and boss, she said, I'll stop you right there. When you speak for those that have no voice, speak up and speak often. When you work for youth mental health, children with disabilities, those in a crisis situation, it is your responsibility, after you've connected, after you've given water up, all that stuff, to make sure that you can speak on their behalf. And if you're anything like most people, you will do a better job of speaking up on someone else's behalf than you would do for yourself. We know the other strategy. What advice would you give to a friend that you need to give to yourself? That comes into it as well. But if you are going to be an advocate, you have a responsibility with your knowledge, with your expertise, with your access to extra services and individuals. You owe it to that to make it a difference. And if you are a senior person, you must speak up on behalf of the younger staff coming through, because we want to protect them from the slings and arrows of what is a turnaround of staff under 5 years. Teachers who graduate now, they're predicted to only last about 5 years before they are totally burnt out. We're asking our teachers to do the mental health, to do the special ed, to do all of those things, but without the training. So we need to protect. So if you have a voice and you have a senior position, you protect your younger staff, even the ugly ones. All right, so vulnerability is a resource for advocacy and connection. Fixes must be multi-leveled, individual and organisation. Small advocacy steps can scale to systematic change. But if you're like me, you're looking around going, there is so much work going on around. Why are we not on the agenda at each budget each year for, yes, we've got more psychology places a couple of years ago, it came out. Big deal. The unpaid thousands of hours of placement make it unattainable for the young staff coming through, or young people coming through. So you can actually qualify up as an allied health professional if you are in a family that can support you, if you have a partner that can support you, if you have a workplace that can support you. But who does that therefore keep out of these professions? Those communities that really need it the most. So, and it's all individual. We need to work on, and I actually did a whole other presentation, I don't want to get carried away, about how is it that an 18-year-old boy can leave high school, barely can read and write, but walk straight into a traineeship as an apprentice or whatever. Good luck to him. Would not consider that. Do you get paid for that? Of course. I wouldn't do it otherwise, says one of my young people. I ask this. At the same time, 4 years you'll have to do training and then go and give it away for free. So how is it that we can be having a sustainable workforce if we're not actually looking after, and we're part of the design is you will be part of the poverty placement people. Now I've done placements for my teaching, my special ed teaching and my psychology, none of which were paid until at the very end I was able to do part of it paid and part of it not. But that's not the same experience for everybody. I would not be encouraging these beautiful daughters of mine to be going down the same path. But if they did, it would fall on my shoulders to support them financially while they did it, only to come out the other end and not actually be financially independent, unlike the 18-year-old who's driving a lovely car and can buy a house. And as one of the people we were talking about before, because we're so beautiful and lovely, people want to have babies with us. So just when you're about to start your career, boom. Yeah? So you now are in a situation where you're against your biological clock, or you want to go and follow your career. So, yes, I'm thinking about running for office. Not properly formatted in all that, but this is me. If this topic didn't excite you terribly, we actually have put, my colleague Raker and I have put a number of posters up as well. How to leverage your authentic self in the playroom, decoding distress, and how to get more clicks, views and followers. I'm still trying to work on that last one. Probably just to start telling jokes. No, that didn't work. Okay. We've got time for questions. Yeah?
Yes, we've got time for a question, maybe two, if anyone has anything. Yes. This isn't a well thought out question, but I work in a school setting. What would your advice be around how I can adopt this when I don't feel like I have really any say, any control? Is it really just focusing on those individual things that you shared?
Mm-hmm. So how many of you are in the team at the school?
There's 4, but one's an assistant principal and then the other 2 are teachers.
So that's your team of wellbeing?
Yeah,
and so
18.
So what's your role?
I'm a social worker, youth worker.
Okay. So when you were employed, this is the other thing too, so sometimes schools will employ you as a counsellor, which only they only have to pay this amount versus psychology. You need to negotiate right from the get-go, and also look at further training, put yourself up one of the pay grades, make sure that you are in a position of power. The difference between men in all of these situations is that we don't often have power, and we give it away because we want to keep the children at the centre. Yeah. And it's almost like the system is built for that to happen. So when I was receiving my Women Changing the World Award from home the other week, the other year, it was based on the poverty placements, and now we are getting some changes in government now, but it's all too slow. If you are in a school, you need to try and make sure that you can get as high up in the leadership as possible, and while also making sure that you keep your ethics and you are a professional, you have a professional body. You have to adhere to all of those things. There are people in the leadership who make these decisions who are not really as interested. They want to know about ratios. True story, old ratio 1 to 1,000, new ratio 1 to 500 in terms of what we should be doing in schools. Person I spoke to who had no understanding of my role, not interested, was, oh, but it used to be, oh, so we're doing a bit better because there was 2 of us for over 2,000 kids in the school. And I had a teaching load. So, not ideal. But for you, you need to be very clear about what your role is and you stick within that. If you've got a deputy principal as part of your team, then you feed them the opportunities to get on the agendas to make sure that you are part of the decision making for the whole school. So we don't want to hand out tissues and say, oh, everything will be okay. We are scientists, we can rely upon data. You need to make your advocacy heavy in terms of the data. Behind closed doors, hand out the tissues and mollies and all that stuff. But if you want to advocate for your department, so in private practice, one of the people who I trained under around play therapy, who's quite successful overseas, she's like, the more money I make, the more people I can help. So in a school, the more power and the more leadership access you have, the more children you'll be able to help. So you are not asking for space, you are saying, without this space, there will be a decline in our children. You want math scores that are better, you want English scores that are better. For starters, unhappy kids don't learn. And kids who are feeling unsafe at school won't attend. So you want your data to change? Put me in, coach. Yeah?
Amazing. Thank you so much, Morgana Walker, for that very inspiring presentation. Again, contact details are on the slide for anything further. And just a reminder, please take all of your belongings. Afternoon tea, because we'll be moving the walls and things. So thank you so much.
Thanks.